Mama, I got bad news, bad news. I've been rolling with some bad dudes, bad dudes. I've been trying to get a bag too,
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Ashes to Awesome podcast, Rising in Recovery. Our podcast provides light, hope, and understanding about addiction and mental health to those living within that life and the people who love them. This episode is brought to you by Together We Can, where Canada recovers from addiction. That's twcrecoverylife.org. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Kaleidoscope Wednesday on the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFLange. Joining me in virtual studio, of course, is Ryan Bathgate. How you doing today, Ryan?
Yeah, pretty good, Chuck. It's been a bit of a grind coming back from holidays, and
We're still milking that holidays thing, hey?
It's like you take 2 weeks off and at least a month to recover from 2 weeks off. But I always talk about rhythm and how important rhythm is and paying attention to rhythm, and it's just like it's hard to find that rhythm when you're going from 0 to 100 in a matter of a day.
Yeah, true story. Yeah.
And then it's like there's just like this, in behind all that is like this awareness that this is my life from now until next June or whenever the kids get out of school and I can take holidays again. So
Yeah.
So it's been a lot. It's been a bit overwhelming at times. As you know, I've been quite busy and distant, and I don't mean there's no rhyme or reason for it, but it's just the ebbs and flows of life and life's demands. Certainly, it's really easy to think about the world and our reality when we have space to navigate that. But it's like the more demands and the more stresses you have, the smaller that world becomes, and the more tunnel vision I think we get. And then it's like the reality of the cold hard world starts to set in, and I start to realize that I need to, and this is an ongoing, constant thing where I'm in constant assessment of priority assessment, and so I have been, I've been lacking in my engagement with a lot of friendships, a lot of developing or maintaining my support networks and the people that are close to me, and then obviously like the investments that I have into what we do here on a weekly basis has it's always on my mind, but there's always something in front of it that I need to get done before I can get there, and then I just the old Ringo Starr says tomorrow never comes. Which is a Beatles song, ironically, But so and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, well, tomorrow I'm going to get on this, and then trying to get back to the gym. I went on vacation, put on 17 pounds, and then 3 weeks later I am down 3 pounds. So it's sure a hell of a lot easier to put on than it is to get off. So
True story there. True story. Yeah.
So no, I'm good. It's just this working for a living thing. It's real.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Myself, it's been a hell of a couple of weeks here, or a hell of a week anyway, since last week. We did the weekend ramble. I know you didn't have a chance to listen to it, but
I did go.
Norris, who is now, I've teamed up with Norris, on the show here. We're going to do whatever we can for them. That's the National Overdose Response System for anybody that's listening. What a great program they've got going on there, hey?
Yeah.
So and I'll do the plug now rather than cut a commercial in later on, and we can talk about that for a second. So with Norris, somebody who's using a loan can call in and either stay on the line with somebody while they use, and if something goes wrong, Norris will enact their or trigger their emergency plan as it was made with the person using. So that might not involve 911 right off the bat. It might start with my mom lives down the street and has an Arcan, or my roommate has an Arcan. You can call them or whatever. which I think it's great that the user actually has some control over that, because sometimes 911's a scary thing, and people, regardless of how badly they need it, just don't want that to happen. So, and one of the great things that I didn't think about until I really started talking to Attica, who's a co-host on the Weekend Ramble, was what an opportunity for connection, right? For somebody who's, suffering this alone. And 75% of overdoses happen in the home alone, right? So what a great thing. 8,500 phone calls, not one death, not one single death, right? So that, to me, that's a pretty powerful thing, right? And they need volunteers, and they need awareness. They need people to know that they're available too, right? People that might use the system. So that's nors.ca if anybody's interested in volunteering for that. The great thing about volunteering for them is it's from home, and it's when you're able to, right? So you can, at any point, it's kind of like Uber. An Uber driver can just check in when they want to check in, or check out when they want to check out. Kind of the same idea, right? So what a great way to have a huge impact on somebody's life, and save a life potentially with a small imprint on your own. Right. So
yeah, I mean, we got something similar. I don't think it's as evolved out here. It's called Lifeguard. It's
very similar app. Yeah. So is Brave, be the same thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Lifeguard was actually developed by a guy that I know really well, and so I, being a manager of harm reduction, I've actually just recently reached out to him to try to get some traction on Mission, the city I live in. To be adopting that a little bit more, but hey, maybe Norse is something we need to look at. So when we go offline here, let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe
Absolutely.
I can get a contact or something that I can reach out to.
I had a great conversation with Lisa Morris, who is the executive director over there at Norse, right? Of course, Dr. Monty Ghosh, who we had on the Weekend Ramble a few weeks back, he's a huge part of that, of the Norse team over there. I had a great conversation with her. It didn't work out for the last weekend's ramble that she could be on, but there's so much more than what I just talked about as well, right? Their mental health. They're all the things. Bit of a backstory on Norse, which is kind of cool. Not cool. Cool's a really wrong word to use here. Becky Morris is the one who started it. She passed as a result of an overdose. She relapsed. And now her sister is taking that torch and carried on with it, right? So, yeah, right. So, yeah, right. And so, you imagine 8,500 phone calls, 0 deaths. So, to me, the reason that I'm so behind this is there's so many people out there, ourselves, countless other individuals, organizations who are trying really hard to do something good, and put all their heart and soul into it. This is one of the few things that's in real time making a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, that's, you can't do much better than that. Right. But,
Well, I'd like to think, Chuck, that we are also one of those few that are.
I would like to think so as well. Right. So that's why I volunteered to team up with them for, spread the word and all of that stuff. And, for no funding at that. So, we'll see how it goes. But
no, for no funding. It's funny you say that, part of my struggle lately has been the priority is family, food on the table, bills paid, and I love what we do here. It's just it doesn't get priority because it doesn't feed my kids.
I get it. I totally understand. Right? Yeah.
And I hate that because it's an honest take. But if we could do this show every day, and I could put food on the table, I think my life's dream would be realized. Living the
best life right there. I say it at the end of every episode, right? That is living my best life. So, right.
Yeah.
Sometime we're coming along. So, right. Of course we have our own little side project waiting to happen here too. And maybe something comes of that as well. Right. So, the caring compass, right? Yes, as I call it. But
I think it's, I don't know how much you want to get into that, but I mean, the need for support, just outside of the individual addict itself. I think I've mentioned it many times in a number of episodes that, those that use get a break. Those that support and love the user don't. Yeah.
No, because even when I get clean, my mom, even today, with all of the good stuff we're doing, somewhere in the back of my mom's mind, she's worried about me relapsing, right? Like somewhere, right? You know, and we're almost a year now, right? And she's still worried. I guarantee she is, right?
I hate,
You know,
I hate to like, you know, throw rocks at glass houses, but
Yep.
let's be honest, a year ain't shit, man.
No, it isn't. It isn't, right? So, you know, the families, they just don't get a break. They just don't, and that's the reality of it, right? Which I guess kind of leads into today what we want to talk about, right? So,
well, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't know what we want to talk about today, and there's some background to that. I mean, we just finished 2 back-to-back series.
Yep.
And you know, we don't do a lot of prep for the Kaleidoscope show.
Very little to none, actually, if you want to peek behind the curtain, right? Yeah.
But there is at least some, like, even driving, I'm planning a little bit about how the series is going to fit together, you know?
Yeah.
And so I have to be completely transparent in saying that it is nice today to not have a clue what road we're going to go down.
Just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, so I do want to finish talking about the weekend ramble because what it turned into was an amazing, I'll say conversation, but really what I mean is debate about coerced treatment. Right. So, and I know you haven't had a chance to watch that yet. If you're going to catch up on any episode, make it last week. It might have been the best episode I've ever recorded.
Yeah,
right? Lisa kind of kicked it off with just, you know, a comment or a question, whatever it was, and it just went. It really did, right? So, you know, a guy had mentioned on a LinkedIn post after Dr. Tange's episode with us that he works in coerced treatment, like in mandated treatment down in the States somewhere. And said, he said, our rates are only 20%. Our success rates are only 20%. I went, 20%? So that was kind of the basis of my entire argument was like, if you're pushing a 20% success rate, right? Like, and I was trying to explain to Attica, who's, you know, is very much against coerced treatment, as it has been in the past. I shouldn't say that she's against it as we want to do it or as we think of it now. But
it's a traditional model.
Yeah, right. Where based on the moral model.
Yeah.
Right. And to date, that has been what mandated treatment's been about.
Well,
right.
In all fairness, I think that's what the optics look like from the outside looking in, or the untrained eye, or really like without understanding the intricate parts of that. Because my feelings about it have definitely evolved over time. The more that I have either lived it, understand it, worked with it, and like right off the bat, you say mandated treatment, and I'm like, fuck you.
You picture a van running around scooping up people and violating their human rights, right?
Well, I'm up to smoking a quarter of weed now a day, and now they want to send me to treatment. You know, like. And that's not you know, I'm not of any mind particularly. I don't like mandated anything as a human being that is like anti-establishment or like, so I have that like set point of like F you, you know, but the more I look at it, I mean, for me it's basically like I think mandated treatment is much better than an 8x8.
Yeah, right. Every time. Right. Yeah. And or the other result, you know, of a serious addiction problem, and that's, you know, death, right?
Fatality, And I mean, it's no different than like, you know, my views on interventions originally were like, I think they're awful, and I think that they are. Originally, I thought it was a capitalist design to create viewership for a television show. Yeah,
right. Which I think most of us had that impression about interventions, right?
We did.
Did Devon sure help shape that for us, right? Myself, you know, if not yourself as well, right? You know,
but definitely Devon had an impact, and I think knowing some other, like, you know, I've never actually met an interventionist that embodies what I thought an interventionist is.
Yep.
That's not true. I met one, and I'm not going to say any names or anything. And honestly, that was like, 20 years ago that I knew this individual, and that's a lot of where my forming of my judgment came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I look at it, like, Devin said something really important that really hit home for me is like, if we're at the state of intervention, everything else has been tried.
Right. Right. You would think in the vast majority of cases, absolutely. Right.
For the most part, yeah. Most people
right.
I mean, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
People don't jump to that first. It's it's not like, wow, okay, 10 grand intervention, off you go to treatment, 30 grand a month. Like that's not, that's not the reality.
Not the default. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
No, the default is like, well, the default is actually probably and this is something maybe we want to get into today. Is like, if the family or the support network doesn't have an understanding of addiction, then their first go-to is usually, it's not as bad as it looks, or I think, or why don't you try to regulate? Why don't you try to use less? Why don't you try to use something different, more healthy? And we know how that goes. And as far as like 20% success, like, good for you.
That's what again, the whole base of my argument is 20%. I said, if any other recovery modality could claim a 20% success rate, it'd be the only thing we do.
Yeah.
That'd be it. Right. I said that you would be a rock star. And quite frankly, if I can save 2 people's lives and piss off 8 people, I'll do that every day of the week. Right. So like 20% is a hell of a number. Again, I don't know where those numbers came from. I have no idea if that's factual. That was just what one person had said who seemingly works in that industry, right? So
I have a stat that I've hung my hat on for many years that I read years ago when I first started out. I don't even know. And the other thing is, like, stats are like, I also look at them a little differently now. Like,
yeah, right. They're so easily manipulated. They're so what is success? Right.
I know of, like, working in the treatment field for years. I know of treatment centers that would claim 100% success rates, and based on
recidivism in the first 6 months or month, right?
based on the way that they optically collect data, to prove a point, and it's completely skewed. So, again, capitalism in action. If I say that I have a 100% rate, I make more money.
Yeah, right. Funding comes my way. All those things, right?
All those, to be honest, this is a private place that I'm speaking to directly. So it wasn't actually about appeasing government funding. It was about appeasing the 1%ers. Well, the upper class. Yeah.
Right. So
and people that make money in capitalist North America usually have a good understanding of statistics and how they work. So
right. So and again, I don't know if 20% is the actual number. I don't, but if it is, hey, let's take a real strong, hard look at what's going on there, right?
Yeah, and I think where I agree with it is again, like interventions, it's the last block on the house. Last block on the house on the block, man.
Yeah,
just like too much.
If you've got somebody whose brain is not working, right, who's actually incapable, and if you talk to Lisa, Dr. Lisa, she'll talk about watching brain scans of people that are in serious addiction, and their frontal cortex just not working, right? So how do you, Yeah, I could go down that road.
Well, I mean, litigiously, it's not much different than claiming, not guilty based on insanity. Like,
right.
And so, and I do, like, I agree. Like, especially with the shit that's out there now, the benzos and the dope, and like, like I said before, you go down to Hastings and in that area, and you see a lot of people that are basically in a state of insanity and completely lost of their own identity and essence. Because
Absolutely.
That's what happens. I mean, we lose touch of reality. We have a psychosomatic disconnect. We have, dreams, goals, aspirations. They go to the back burner. And if I've spent time down there on different levels, and most of the stories are usually about like who I used to be. the things that I have done in my previous life as some sense of like, I'm still somebody. Although, and it's a projection of this, like, like the role of ego, like, I feel less than, so I'm going to make myself appear more so you don't find out how low I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Which is something I can relate to most certainly as well.
Yeah. Well,
I held on to my, I went and visited the MLA in Saskatchewan shit for years. Right. Into it. Right. So certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. A great example of that would be, this past week when we took a friend's wife, not estranged wife, they're separated now for a couple of years, but to the Peter Lougheed Center here, that's a hospital here in Calgary, to the emergency room to try and get her some help. And what she's saying to the doctors, the moment we're not in the room, is completely different than her reality. Right? So it's like, I don't think she's lying. I don't think she really understands how bad or dire her situation is. Right?
Yeah. And that is,
so I don't, frustrating.
It is, and it's a very common distortion. Like, one of the things that I do, a lot of the work that I do is based on or reality construction, how we build the lenses that we see the world through in a way that's conducive to our own flourishing. And predominantly, the people that have suffered from characteristics of addiction have a distorted sense of reality because they didn't build that reality the way they want with choice and freedom. They built it with a lack of choice and oppression. And so they didn't build it. Their history built it for them. Yeah. Which makes it just, it's to mitigate or abandon the sense of choice within our own being is to invite both shame and oppression into our existence, which ultimately creates a pressure that eventually pops.
Yeah. It's a scary thing, man. It really is. With her, we continue to fight, and we're like we just got ourselves a few days. Last night was our last update, so a few more days in care. But at this point, my friend and I are both of the mind that every day, if we got to fight for one more night, then we'll fight for one more night, right? Like whatever we got to do, right, to keep it there. So
think about that statement you just said. Where's hope?
Yeah. Well, you tell me. You got me on the ropes there.
Well, obviously, like, hope is the one thing we need to get through this. Like, whether it be family, whether it be the person themselves, but when we're talking about a day to day, and like you're not going up against addiction in this case. You're going up against a broken system. Yeah. And who's to blame? Yeah. Do you blame the nurses who are burnt out, tired, and using apathy? Not. But that's who gets the brunt of it. Do we blame the doctors that have
Same
this
thing, right?
caseload that they need to get through, and at some point it becomes dehumanizing. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, well, I got to get this one through and this one, and like, like I want the best for this person, but that's the best I can do is want it.
Yeah, right.
Not much I can do for it.
And we're fortunate. We have Dr. Lisa helping us navigate the situation, right? And I know she doesn't mind if we talk about that, right? I can't imagine a family member that doesn't have the resources we do, that doesn't have, someone like me who's got the podcast and a platform and Dr. Lisa, what that must be like. Right?
Think about the level and the depth of that, and I'm going to use the word handicap in that, okay, so like, let's just say I know nothing about addiction. Yeah. Maybe my dad drank a scotch every Saturday night, and then now my child is lost in the streets of the downtown east side.
Right.
Hell, what the hell do I do? I don't understand the affliction. I don't understand the culture. I don't understand the
system,
the ontology of it. I definitely don't understand the system because like the system is built and geared towards healthy, flourishing, thriving citizens that vote, that are consumers, and that predominantly base opinions that are in line with political agendas, whether they mean to or not. That's kind of the way it goes. I mean, just look at Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so like, what do they do? Well, as I've said before, even the person that is suffering the characteristics of addiction doesn't have these understandings as well. But what they get is they get a 6 to 8 hour reprieve every day from anything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, and okay. We dedicate what resources there are, and there should be more, but what resources what there are, we dedicate 90% of those to the people that are suffering an addiction. But in my mind, that's only 10% of the people that are affected by addiction, right? Because you've got their families, their friends, their loved ones are the other 90% who don't get really any of these resources, right, to help them navigate. And I believe, and it's part of the reason that as the host here, that I dedicate so much to the families, that if we can dedicate more to the families, in effect, we are helping the people that are suffering.
Well, absolutely. And so, like,
right.
To kind of feed off that, like when I started this work, it was like, I went through a period of what they don't teach you in school is how futile it can feel and appear, and in reality is, to be, fighting. And I hate using that word, but to be fighting this thing.
It's accurate, right? Yeah.
And like, right. And so what I used to tell myself is that the successes that we have within being mental health professionals, we're never going to see. Once in a while, we'll get somebody that pops back in 5 years later and says, I ran into a guy at the gas station who is one of the hopeless variety, as per the big book verbiage, and he was taking his kids to soccer and filling up his new car with gas, and I was like, thank God, there's a win.
No kidding, right? But good point. You wouldn't see them.
No, you don't.
Right? You wouldn't. Yeah.
No.
In my case, I like to think that I would, because it's a very different dynamic. But in your case,
you don't.
Yeah, you would not. Right?
What you see is obituaries.
Yeah.
You hear about the deaths through the whisper networks.
Yeah.
And so what I would tell myself is that if I'm here doing this work today with this one person, that one person has at least 10 people attached to them, either witnessing, viewing, learning from this experience that this person is going through.
Absolutely. Right.
And so now to be on, like, I mean, now that I'm out of the treatment world, and I do private practice, I'm going to say, when it comes to the clients that have characteristics of addiction, I spend probably 20% of the time with the individual, and the other 80% of the time coaching and advising the family members, because they just don't have any idea what to do. Like, talk about feeling lost. It's like, it would be like me going in playing a game of cricket.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how that game works at all. No idea. And so like what do I do? And like, and think about the hopelessness that can accompany that, the devastating disappointment, the like completely talk about like, I've got concussion issues.
Yeah.
I've had way too many for a human being. And that's what I relate it must be like for them, is like, bam, getting hit in the head and be like, who the fuck am I? Where am I? What's going on? Why am I nauseous? Like, why do I have headaches? Like, all these things. It's just like, what do I do? Who can I contact? Where do I get help? And thank God for people out there like Andy Batty and Andy Batty Interventions, and Devin McGuire and Revolution Recovery, and Stacy over at TWC, the people that actually make the investments. And I don't get paid to spend 3 hours on the phone with a mother.
No,
or a husband, or a brother or sister, and I say that not because like I'm like, well, I should be. No, I'm saying that because my commitment was to help people, not to make money. Now, when I started, I was single, I had abs, I had maybe a bit of hair left. Didn't give a shit about how much money I made. And now, I got 2 kids and a mortgage in the lower mainland, where you can't go to the grocery store without spending $400 a week, like,
Yeah,
well,
right. And rising from here
and
still,
rising,
right?
and inflation. Don't even get going about Bank of Canada and whatever the hell they're doing to screw me over. And I work I work with the unhoused now, specifically on a day-to-day basis, and like, let's face it, our government is creating homelessness
Without a shadow of a doubt.
based on their attempt at fighting inflation, as they say.
Yeah, which is a result of carbon tax. Don't even get me started.
Well,
thank you, Trudeau. Right, that's what it comes down to.
There's more to it than that. Here in the Lower Mainland, a big part of it is people that own properties that don't live on this continent and just buy properties up so that the value will increase, and they don't. So these houses sit empty while while our like my taxes went up 55% on my property. My mortgage rate went from 1.6 to 7 point whatever it is now, and like that's why I have to work 60 hours a week and I'm still behind.
Yeah, right. So
anyway, that's a whole nother pissing and blowing.
That's another podcast. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Definitely different. But the point is like, and so like, but no, that is correlatable because, how this is why, like, Tiffany, thank God for Tiffany, being able to like raise money to get
the Nate D Foundation, by the way.
The Nate D Foundation to raises money so people can come and see me and get help with their their addiction issues, and like that's what and it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But how do I say, like, to a single mother of 3 whose oldest son is in fentanyl addiction, that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna require about 20 sessions at $140 a session. And if you can't come up with that, then your son doesn't get any help. Like,
man, that's a tough.
It is, and for me to do it for free is like, well, now my kids suffer.
Yeah, right.
And so like it's literally the definition of dissonance.
Yeah. That's horrible, man. I'm reading a great book right now, Here With You by Kathy Wagner, which speaks to all of this, right?
Well, you start with me on reading books. I'm very proud of you for reading a book.
Again, it's in PDF. I could blow it up. These old eyes, right? Yeah. So, what a fantastic book. It's all about that struggle.
Do you mind
right? just that? Right?
Do you mind just saying the book again and by who? Just because I feel like I kind of ruined that.
Okay. Here With You by Kathy Wagner.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What an incredible tale she tells. Right. And it's all about being a single mother with 3 kids, and her youngest, I guess in this case, is suffering in it, and she talks about the money. Where does that come from? She's finding a solution, but then she has to find the money, and then like it's just like, oh, what a tough go that is, right?
It really is, and it's a constant struggle. And so, like, can I plug myself here quickly?
You can plug yourself. Absolutely, you can.
I've actually never done it on this show.
Yeah, of course you can.
This is quite intentional. If you're a parent or a loved one that needs just to talk to somebody for nothing, go to ryanbathgate.com, which is my counseling website. Give me a call, and I'll do whatever I can to help over the phone. If it looks like it's going to be longer and we need to book sessions, and we'll navigate that. But my point is like, if you go to ryanbathgate.com, you don't have to be alone.
Yeah,
I will do whatever I can to help. At no cost to talk on the phone. No cost at all.
Whatever that looks like,
whatever it is. Just even if it's just like, I don't know what to do next, or I don't know how to feel, or I don't know, like, a lot of it. Because of the reality, what I deal with the most is these presumptions or notions of moral model existence. And most parents are either go one way or the other, which is enabling, which is not a good thing, or complete cutoff and neglect and walk away.
Which is horrible.
And both ends of those spectrums, I don't believe are the answer. And we talk, and I'll say it a million times. The answer to this is the love model, and it's not sexy, but it is, in my opinion, the most effective way. And so, hey, maybe that's an idea for another series, the love model. But
love model. It's been a while since we've really hit home on that, and absolutely, actually, I think that would be great. It's actually something we could tie an entire week into as well.
Yeah, and most the reason I'm saying this is obviously not so I get 600 phone calls a day, but the reason I'm saying is because it is, you and I both know how there's just no direction, there's no resource for the families that are going, and it's hell, man. Like, it is a living hell that is not a consequence of each of an individual family member or loved one. The only thing they've done is love them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And the person that's going through it doesn't want to be putting you through that. It's just the nature of the loss of essence that, addiction, because what it takes from us is our soul, in my opinion.
It eats the soul, 100%. That's what happens. Yeah.
Or I just want to shift that verbiage. It suffocates it. It doesn't kill it.
Yeah.
It takes it hostage. It's in there. Mm-hmm. That person's essence is in there. We see it. I don't know. I've been to a few meetings in my day, and you hear this well, I just got my 1 month chip, and everything is amazing. I love everything, and my life is so amazing, and everything's great. And I was like, yeah, give it another month or two, but not to be cynical, but but the realities. Because I believe that happens because it is, like, for most people, the first time they felt their true essence or their spirit in so fucking long.
Yeah.
100%. And that it's an exciting time. The problem is I don't think that we educate in a way that is, how do we handle tension? How do we handle adversity? Who are we going to be within that when when these things come down the pike? And so, anyway, I got that little clock going in the corner there. I don't know where.
Well, we can certainly switch over to mailbag. I've got a few here if you want to do that.
Okay, so I just want to tie it up then.
Yeah.
This thing only survives in isolation, loneliness, and a lack of connection.
Yeah.
That's not just the person struggling with characteristics of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
That is the entire ecosystem of that family or loved unit. And so, and it doesn't have to be like that. Shame has no place in it, in the process. And there are people like myself, Chuck, Devin, Andy Batty, Lisa, a number of people that are just more than willing to make sure that you don't feel aloneness. We may not have the answers, but we do have a viable medium of authentic connection that will, a guarantee, and I don't like to make guarantees, but that will help.
Absolutely. And an ever-growing network.
Yes.
An ever-growing network of people that can help, right? So please don't hesitate.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, I'm going to put up, as soon as we're done recording this episode, I'm going to make sure that there's a link to your website on our website, right? Right? I can't believe that I haven't done that already.
Well, it's not, to be honest with you, my counseling business is a wait list, and so I don't promote it on here because I hate having to say I can see you in 2-3 months. It's not helpful for anybody. So I don't promote it on here because I have a.
Perhaps we'll figure out some sort of email thing, or I don't know. Let's talk more about that and see how it goes.
Sure.
Right? So, yeah.
Oh, and then you guys always check out a2apodcast.com, or email Chuck.
Yes, of course, right. Before we move on to mailbag, a couple things I want to talk about. Normally I plug in commercials, but what I'm supposed to do is do kind of a loose rotation between verbal mentions and that. So deadkits.com. For any of you that have been paying attention since the beginning, in the beginning we didn't do video episodes. And we didn't do them because of a broken smile, right? I was absolutely, when I was recording with people, if I could pull this thing down. No. Okay. When I used to record with people, you had those big screens that go up in front of the microphone. Yeah, like this one here.
Like this.
Exactly. Yeah, that is how I would do it, right? And for those of you that are just listening, I would put the microphone screen in front of my face because I was so embarrassed about my smile, and not just embarrassed, but it brought up a lot of really painful memories, right? And as to how that got broken, right? So, but dentkits.com, it was 3 weeks or so and my life changed forever. I remember Carl the Atheist was with me when I picked up those dentures, and he said as soon as I put them in my mouth, my life changed 100%, right? Like he could see a total change come over me. So, I still got some stuff to do on the bottom, but, I got the top. So it's a big difference for me. It's all the difference in the world. It's the only reason that we do video. So check them out, guys. That's dentkits.com. The most expensive product they have is the full set for like $600, and it only gets cheaper from there. So if
excellent. Yeah. Can you just do a thing here? Like I'm just realizing something. You can want to edit this out. I'm not on Camel. That's
okay.
That's why the computer's the thing sucks.
Oh.
When I
we're here now, so might as well just run it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. For next time though, right? So yeah. Okay. And I'm not going to edit that out actually, just to make, because it's Wednesday and I have to release this on Wednesday. We're just going to make this real easy. So with that said, one more plug that I'm going to do here is for the swag shop, guys. Check them out. I've been putting commercials inside the episodes. I'm not going to do it this time. Hoodies, highly customizable. If you want to check out a hoodie, anything you want to do, if you just shoot me a message, I can absolutely do that on them. T-shirts, tank tops, all that jazz. Check it. If you buy them, you're really helping to spread the message, and helping me out here too. It's certainly not a lucrative thing that we're doing, let's to say the least, right? With that said, we'll break for a quick public service announcement and move into the mailbag.
Okay.
And now for a quick PSA brought to you by Revolution Recovery, helping men recover and become their best selves through support and treatment. They've been there and they understand.
Hi listeners, this is Lena. I'm part of the Ashes to Awesome team and co-hosted on episodes 76 and 67. Do you carry Narcan, also known as naloxone? If not, perhaps you should. The kits are not only compact and easy to use, they are free at all harm reduction centers and a lot of pharmacies. By carrying one of these kits, you could save the life of somebody who loves and that is loved. I get that most of you never plan on being around opioid use, but there's no telling when it could be around you. I can't think of a good reason not to have it, and if you're not sure where to find it for free, send us an email at ashes2awesomepodcast@gmail.com. Legwork for you and find it for free in your area. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
Edit. Okay, so we're back from the break and into the mailbag. So we'll just jump right into it here, right?
Okay.
Sarah from Toronto asks, I've been struggling with alcohol addiction for years, and it feels like an insurmountable mountain to climb. How can I begin to believe in my own ability to recover, and what steps should I take to start this journey?
Okay. These challenges that we have, they're never really just about addiction. Like I don't know if we've been following the show, you've been listening long enough, realize that these are all humanistic challenges, and that one I believe that the coping mechanism of substance use, and when it crosses that line into substance use disorder, is just about us, coping, and then that underlying drivers, typically what needs to be attended to. So struggling with, and I like how it is. She uses the word alcohol addiction instead of alcoholism, because to me, it's behavioral, and it is again, the symptom of something deeper. How do I believe in my own ability to recover? I'm gonna say, if I want to change that word from recover to flourish. I believe that the human spirit is in a constant state of intaking our so my brain automatically goes to this, like, how the entire premise of the universe is set that everything organic that is living in the universe is always in a consumption of energy, and usually dependent on the sun. Anyway, so how do I believe in my own? How do I believe in my own ability to do anything? What I need to do is get this idea of, hey, my capacity is what, and my potential is what, and so I think that we are programmed, or we're designed or influenced to think that there is a ceiling on our potential and our capacity, and that is in direct contrast of the human spirit and the evolution of our human existence. And so, like, right away, it's like, how do I develop the intrinsic resources to believe in myself? So what are we talking about? What does believing in myself? What does that mean? And to me, it means self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect, living in values, integrity. And so the very first thing that I do is, like, I stop. I believe whatever we fight, we empower.
Yeah.
So I stop fighting this idea, like, I'm struggling with alcohol addiction. Well, what if that's the wrong word? What if it is, I've been blessed with, or I've been gifted the tension and struggle that I know will make me a better human being, so long as I am in constant movement in, hopefully, a direction of flourishing. And so, if we're using the word insurmountable to climb, that makes it almost impossible, right? So, what if it isn't insurmountable? What if there are millions and millions of people all around the world that have managed to find a semblance of existence that doesn't include alcohol or any other narcotic or behavioral deficit, that have found great lives? And so, I would do evidence collection and intrinsic resource development.
Okay.
And then small victories, man. Like, I learned years ago that when I make my bed in the morning, it gives me just a little smidge of self-worth. And when I come home and the bed's made, a little bit of smidge of self-worth. So those intrinsic resources develop. So on a daily basis, I just set little goals. Like, today, I'm going to go to the gym today. That makes me feel better about myself. And I do that day to day, and it starts to rise. Now, I want to take away the idea that I'm fighting anything, because if I'm fighting it, I'm empowering it. And if I'm empowering it, then it becomes insurmountable. So I would be careful the words I use. How do I believe in myself? Well, I start by believing in myself. I start by thinking, you know what? This is something I can do. One of the most amazing and phenomenons of the human experience is our ability to be resilient. It's actually a defining characteristics of humanity, along with fallibility. And so, allow myself the space to be human. In other words, be of error, and then start to build up these things, the belief that, like, for me personally, I look what Martin Luther King did, man. He believed in himself.
Yeah.
Changed the world,
Absolutely he did. Yeah.
Why is he different than me?
Yeah. He's not.
He's not. Mother Teresa, why is she different than me? Nelson Mandela, why is it Gandhi? Like, on and on and on and on. And so whatever I look for, I'm gonna find.
Yeah.
So if I start looking for the reasons that I can overcome, or not even overcome, that I can turn this into strength, then I will find evidence that will state that I can, or other people have that I can borrow. And the steps I take in this journey is just it's a day-to-day thing. Like I said, I get up and I make my bed. Maybe one day I don't get up and don't make my bed. Maybe one day I don't conquer any goals. Maybe one day I just sit at home and I sit in the feeling of self-pity, whatever. I have to assume that has value.
Yeah.
And so I start assigning everything value, including alcohol. So let's look at what alcohol.
Okay.
So alcohol is it's an awful thing. Blah, blah. It's just destroyed my life. I hate it. Okay, what is it? It's an inanimate object that I've assigned an unfair amount of power to, that has actually taken over and control me. Now, pretending it's not there will do the same thing. It'll control me.
Yeah.
But accepting it as a part of me and an essential element to my own intrinsic development and personal growth as a human being, now it has value.
Yes.
In the beginning, it had value. Like, I remember, man, 10 years old, bottle of Southern Comfort in behind 7-Eleven in Comox, right?
Yeah.
I slammed that thing, and for the first time in my life, I experienced what I thought was peace. It had value.
Yeah.
Until it didn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it did. It did have, so, like, you know, I also believe that validation removes defense. So, and it's no different than ego or anything else. Like, if I give it value that it deserves, then it doesn't take value it doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
In other words, I'm the captain of this ship. And so I look at it like, you know, like, okay, so I went 3 weeks without a drink and I had a drink. What am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
Am I going to shame myself? Am I going to deplete all my intrinsic resources? Am I going to take that 3 weeks and flush it, like they say? Like, no, you're going to be like, okay, well, I've just proven that I can do 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's go for 4.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I go 4 weeks and have another drink, and I go, okay, good job.
Yeah.
Let's do 5.
Go for 6.
Yeah,
whatever,
like,
right?
And
right?
just keep building. And see, so a lot of this has to do with the language we use within our own internal dialogue. I try to pay attention to the words that I'm choosing to use within my own internal dialogue.
Yep.
And so, like, I look at this and I see, you know, struggling. Okay, that's a deficit term.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I change that word to I've been gifted the process of tension and challenge. You know, insurmountable mountain to climb? No, it is a difficult mountain to climb.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. You tell me, you know, if I tell myself I can't do something, I won't.
Yep.
If I tell myself something is hard to do, I'm going to conquer that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's who I am. Is like, you give me something hard, and I'm going to show myself who I am.
Yeah. Right.
And to believe in my own ability to recover, to flourish. Well, I'm flourishing every day. Here's what we know: everything is moving. Everything is changing.
Yeah.
Glaciers are moving. You can't see it, but it's happening. Mm-hmm. You know, there is the cliffs of Dover being molded by the weather on a daily basis. Everything changes. Wouldn't I want to have a say in what that change looks like? And if I don't make a choice, my history makes it for me, and I get to repeat. That's the problem. Is like, I'm choosing to not beat the F out of myself for having a slip.
Yeah.
What I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to take that, what I was always calling a mistake and a worthlessness, and I'm going to make it a lesson and make it of value. Yeah. I don't know. I guess a little long-winded for...
Well, you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just matters how many questions we get to, and I know you hate leaving them behind, so, right?
Yeah, I do.
It's all right. Okay. Next question up. Jason from New York City says, my sister has been addicted to opioids for a long time, and our family doesn't know how to help her anymore. What advice can you offer? What advice can you offer to family members like us who want to support a loved one through addiction recovery?
Yeah, I'm going to have to put a pause on. Hold on.
Okay. Edit.
Sorry, my back is just killing me today.
Oh, no, it's okay. Okay.
I'm an old person. Okay, so here we are again with loved ones, right? Being addicted to opiates for a long time is an incredibly difficult sentence and indictment. And I think the first thing we do based on our moral model Reaganisms is we blame the person. And so the first thing I would say is, like, have you dehumanized this individual?
Yeah.
Is this sorry, I'm going to shift actually that thought. My family doesn't know how to help anymore, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, my question would be, did they know how to help in the first place?
Touche.
Were they just taking stabs at things? And we have a lot of this old way of, like, we don't
preconceived notions.
we don't air our dirty laundry and the family's dirty little secret, and like there's nothing dirty about it. So I would say for the family, explore what help is. There are not a lot, but there are people like us who you could reach out to actually get some sound advice, that have experience and understanding of the whole process, the throes of it, what each individual might be going through, whether it be the loved one or the individual experiencing itself. And like, the reality is like, it wears us down, especially as loved ones. Like, it wears
for
us
both
down.
people involved, right?
That's
for,
what I
for
mean.
both sides of that. Yeah.
And so, been addicted for a long time. Well, you're probably tired. You're probably exhausted. You're probably at your wit's end. You probably went to apathy at some point, because empathy is exhausting.
Yeah.
And so I think that we expand our horizon of support and start asking people that understand and know for guidance or help or whatever. Even just remember we talked months ago about overwhelmed and stressed out, and the difference between that. And like, if we're talking about a long time, the chances are the family members need a break, and they need to hand the baton off, at least for a period of time, to somebody that can rehumanize the process. See that, like Gabor Mate says, and it's not why the addiction, but it's why the hurt, why the pain. And so getting an understanding of the pain and putting, seek to understand.
To be understood.
Right.
Yeah.
And like,
right.
like start, instead of like, how could you do this to me? It's
that one is in particular, right? Yeah. Not doing anything to you.
Yeah.
Right. They are not doing anything to you. They are doing something to themselves that unfortunately affects you.
And so
there is no intent.
Oh,
right?
Think about that. Like, okay,
yeah.
you're one of my good friends, right? Let's just say that, like, I'm in it, and I did something to you. Because of, maybe I stole from you to feed my habit. You're going to be mad at me. You know who's going to be more mad at me?
You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And then we're not built with the tools to, like, counter that with some kind of, like, well, it's the addiction, and I'm a human being, and no, it's like, I'm a piece of shit for doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And so what do I do with that? I cope.
Yeah.
I don't want. The one constant thing about specifically narcotics is that
they never let you down.
Never.
Right.
They will. No. If you don't like the way they feel and you snort that, it will change the way you feel every fucking time, and it works every time.
Yeah.
And so the cycle continues, and the cycle continues.
Yeah. Right.
And so my advice is reach out to people that know and understand, preferably somebody that works from a love model, preferably somebody that understands the workings of the moral model and does not use it, and and knows how to safeguard against the tenets of the moral model. I think the moral model is extremely devastating to the process.
It's horrible.
It isn't a process. It is the opposite of love. It is the opposite of connection. And what it ends up being is more about making the person that is affected by the person in addiction, it makes them feel better, and it's much less about any help. And so, and then like, I'm not the biggest go to meetings guy, but check them out.
It helps. Go. Right.
You know what?
Yeah.
And
my first 30 days doesn't happen without the meetings. There's no way.
Dude,
right.
Dude, I had a service position, a sponsor, and a home group. My very first meeting I ever went to.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah. And that went on for quite a while until my trauma caught up to me eventually. But, multiple years. And it was because it created consistency. It created, what's safety again? Consistency and structure.
Structure. Yeah.
Right? It also gave me something that I didn't even realize. Like, I'm talking 25 years later now I'm talking about this. But it brought about a sense, my understanding of freedom through accountability. Okay. So every time I showed up to make coffee for that home group, I felt a new sense of freedom that I didn't really know existed. You know, and it's a simple little job. Yeah. But I showed up. You know, and eventually I did that enough times that I created a safety within my own existence that I could trust my own internal values or intrinsic resources of, like integrity. And integrity is like, wow, what integrity does for me, it makes me feel like I am who I am. When I do what I say and say what I do, something happens to my human spirit flourishing that, and like I said, I don't like the word recovery because it's a medical model term. Yeah, it's a deficit term, and it's saying that that I'm getting something back, and I believe we're actually adding to what already exists at all times. Yeah. So and it's a very easy buzzword to use. When you say the word recovery, everyone understands it. But it's like love. Everyone thinks they know what love means, but how many people can actually define it? And so with recovery, how many people can actually define recovery? Because recovery is getting something back, recovering. And I don't think we lose anything at any point in our process. There's always value. There's always something to be learned from it. There's always something that can give us growth,
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So, and I think this last question here will do much better as a standalone because we've already touched on it so much and it'd be a little repetitive. So I'm going to leave that for next week. But not because of time, but because I really do feel like it's already, we've covered it so much. And I don't want to do it as a repeat. I think on its own, it'll do much better. So we're going to put a plug in that one for next week.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So sorry, Mike from Chicago, hold me to it next week. You got it. All right. Okay. So
by the way,
that's one more listener that's committed next week to listening. Now you see what I did there, right?
I do appreciate the listeners and the questions that you guys bring forward. I like the more philosophical, humanistic, beyond addiction questions. However, it's all relevant, and this is an addiction network or a recovery network. So,
absolutely it is. So, brings us to my favorite part of the show. That's the Daily Gratitudes.
Today's Daily Gratitudes are brought to you by Yatra Treatment Centers in Phuket, Thailand. They are a clinic run by clinicians, not a business run by businessmen, and they know that where addiction is the smoke, trauma is the fire. Learn more at yatracenters.com. That's YATRACENTRE.com. And now here's our Daily Gratitudes.
So, what you got for us today, Ryan?
Well, I was going to start with I'm so grateful for my beautiful wife and children and everything they bring to my world. I'm grateful for difficulties. I'm grateful for challenge. I'm grateful for tension. I'm grateful that sometimes I feel like shit. And sometimes I have to be reminded that, instead of doing all that, I'm going to say I'm really grateful for the ability to be present when it shows up. I'm not always there. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. For myself this week, we've got some fantastic guests. So there's a couple things happening. Financially, things are rough right now, and you have to be thankful for that because you have to be, right, at the end of the day, for all the reasons you just said. However, I see a shift in the show. I've got authors lined up. I've got professionals lined up. I've got hip hop stars lined up. Like, some really great things are happening on the show, and I'm really grateful for that. I can see another transformation, another stage of growth happening, and for that I'm very, very thankful. Our time, which has been lacking lately, but even just spending this hour and change with you now, buddy, I got to say I feel better. So it does help. It does help.
Yeah, and that's reciprocal. Yeah. I've definitely felt the void not talking every day or every other day like we usually do.
I know, right? Yeah, I kind of feel like a liar when I'm explaining that. Oh, this guy, right? Like, Jesus, we were buddies in school, we reconnected. Now I talk to him like every week, once,
two,
right?
Yeah.
Anyway. And mostly, guys, I am thankful for every one of you, the listeners, watchers, supporters, whatever we're calling you, because whatever you're doing, it's working. So. We're on all the social networks now. Everywhere you see the logo, you can drop a like, comment, share. Remember, every one of those times you do any one of these things, you are contributing to me living my best life. My best life would be to make a humble living spreading the message. The message is this. If you're in, sorry, you got something you want to throw in?
No, I just had some.
Oh, okay.
I do have something I want to throw in.
Go ahead.
But I'm messing with your business now.
Just do it. I'm going to act like it's okay. So, okay. Yeah.
I just had another gratitude that, as you were talking, that really hit me hard. And I'm grateful for the value of implication. In other words, I need to life implies death, wet implies dry. Wealth implies poverty, and we need to experience both for the other to exist. I'm grateful that not having talked to you every day for a couple weeks made me really realize the importance of our relationship and our friendship and what you mean to me. So I feel like I needed to get that out. I realized it was in the middle of your thing, and I know you hate that.
It's okay.
But I think it's an important one.
It is. So back to the message. If you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start that lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, go to a meeting, do whatever the hell it is you need to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. And if you're the loved one of somebody who's suffering an addiction right now, you've just taken the time to listen to us. If you could just take one more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they're loved. Use the words.
You are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back.